Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Houthis enter, or Ansarullah enter the war. What we're going to be seeing soon is that the gas price is going to even go higher. The supply chain, the economy, everything is within now Houthis' decision away from collapse. Why? Because Bab al-Mandab will be shut down as we move forward. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking for into this week as we speak now. We're going to see what's going to be happening around now in the Red Sea. That's basically is going to impact every one of us. Doesn't matter what part of the world you are in. As a matter of fact, Iran has been spending the last 40 years for this moment. Because what we have now, we have four fronts: Iraq, Hezbollah, Yemen, and Iran, which is exactly what I said 3.5 months ago. Should this war erupt between Iran and Israel, Israel will not be able to maintain 3 or 4 fronts. And here we are. And this is exactly what I'm going to be doing for you in this live stream. I'm going to be providing you 2 clips. I'll do the translation, and I will be providing you my own analysis about where I see this is going now. The Houthis officially have entered the war. So we're going to start with the first clip, and this one from the spokesperson of the Yemeni military. That's Yahya Sarih, and I'll do a translation. It's short. It's not that long. Then we'll go from there. All right, let's take a listen, please.
وأمام ما يحدث من العدوان الغاشم للعدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي والذي يستهدف الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة وأمتنا الإسلامية كافة لإقامة ما يسمى إسرائيل الكبرى وتحت.
What he's saying, in light of the brutal aggression currently being perpetrated by the American and Israeli enemies, an aggression targeting the Islamic Republic of Iran, the axis of jihad and resistance, and our entire Islamic nation, and aimed at establishing what he termed Greater Israel under the guise of reshaping the Middle East.
عنوان تغيير الشرق الأوسط وفي إطار حق أمتنا المشروع في التصدي للمخطط الصهيوني ومنفذيه أمريكا وإسرائيل، وتأكيدا على أهمية تعاون شعوب ودول المنطقة في الموقف الحق في التصدي للعدوان الأمريكي الإسرائيلي والمخطط الصهيوني والسعي لإلحاق هزيمة كبرى بهم، واستنادا إلى موقف شعبنا اليمني الإسلامي المبدئي مع أمتنا الإسلامية وتجاه أي عدوان أمريكي إسرائيلي على أي بلد مسلم.
And within the framework of our nation's legitimate right to confront the Zionist scheme and its implementers, America and Israel, and in affirmation of the critical importance of cooperation among the peoples and states of the region in taking a firm stand to counter American Israeli aggression and the Zionist scheme, and to strive to inflict a major defeat upon them. And based upon the principled stance in our Islamic Yemeni people, in solidarity with our Islamic nations, and against any American Israeli aggression directed at any Muslim country.
وفي ظل استمرار العدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي في العدوان على الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران وعلى فلسطين وغزة والعراق ولبنان، تنفيذا للمخطط الصهيوني الذي يهدد كل الأمة، فإن القوات المسلحة اليمنية وحرصا منها على استقرار أمن المنطقة ووقف العدوان فإنها تؤكد على الآتي.
And amidst the continued aggression by the American and Israeli enemies against the Islamic Republic of Iran, Palestine, Gaza, Iraq, and Lebanon, an aggression executed in furtherance of the Zionist scheme that threatens the entire nation, the Yemeni armed forces, out of a deep commitment to regional security and stability and to bringing an end to this aggression, hereby affirm the following.
أولاً، ضرورة الاستجابة الفورية من العدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي للمساعي الدولية الدبلوماسية لوقف العدوان على إيران وبلدان المحور باعتباره عدوانا جائرا ظالما غير مبرر يضر بالاستقرار والأمن على المستوى العالمي والإقليمي ويضر بالاقتصاد العالمي.
First, the necessity for the American and the Israeli enemies to immediately respond to international diplomatic efforts aimed at halting the aggression against Iran and the countries of the Axis, an aggression deemed unjust, oppressive, and unjustified, which undermines global and regional stability and security and harms the global economy.
ثانيا، ضرورة التوقف الفوري عن العدوان على البلدان المسلمة. ضرورة التوقف الفوري عن العدوان على البلدان المسلمة في فلسطين ولبنان وإيران والعراق، ووقف الحصار الجائر على اليمن.
Second, the necessity to immediately cease aggression against Muslim countries, specifically Palestine, Lebanon, Iraq, and Iran, and to lift the unjust blockade imposed upon Yemen.
ثالثا، ضرورة تنفيذ اتفاق غزة والوفاء بالالتزامات التي تضمنها الاتفاق في الاستحقاقات الإنسانية والاستحقاقات المشروعة للشعب الفلسطيني.
Third, the necessity to implement the Gaza Agreement and to fulfill the obligations stipulated therein regarding humanitarian requirements and the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people.
رابعا، نؤكد أن أيدينا على الزناد للتدخل العسكري المباشر في أي من الحالات الآتية.
And fourth, we affirm that our hands remain on the trigger, poised for direct military intervention in any of the following instances.
انضمام أي تحالفات أخرى مع أمريكا وإسرائيل ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة. استخدام البحر الأحمر لتنفيذ عمليات عدائية من قبل أمريكا وإسرائيل ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران وضد أي بلد مسلم فلن نسمح بذلك. استمرار
We will not permit accession to any other alliances with the United States and Israel directed against the Islamic Republic of Iran and the axis of jihad and resistance. Furthermore, we will not allow the Red Sea to be utilized by the United States and Israel as a staging ground for hostile operations against the Islamic Republic of Iran or against any other Muslim nations.
التصعيد ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة وبما يقتضيه مسرح العمليات العسكرية. خامسا، تحذر القوات المسلحة اليمنية من أي إجراءات ظالمة تهدف لتشديد الحصار على الشعب اليمني. ختاما، نؤكد أن عملياتنا العسكرية تستهدف العدو الإسرائيلي والأمريكي لإفشال المخطط الصهيوني ولا تستهدف أي شعب مسلم. والله.
We affirm that any continued escalation against the Islamic Republic and the axis of jihad and resistance will be met with a response commensurate with the requirements of the military theater of operations. Fifthly, the Yemeni armed forces issued a warning against any unjust measures aimed at tightening the blockade imposed upon the Yemeni people. In conclusion, we emphasize that our military operations are directed against the Israeli and American adversaries, specifically to thwart the Zionist agenda, and are not aimed at any Muslim people. May God be, and God is our witness.
الله حسبنا ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. عاش اليمن حرا عزيزا مستقلا، والنصر لليمن ولكل أحرار الأمة. صنعاء 8 شوال 1447 للهجرة، الموافق 27 مارس 2026، صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية. وأمام ما
Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs, the best master, and the best helper. Long live Yemen, free, proud, and independent. Victory belongs to Yemen and to all the free people of the nations. Sana'a on 8 Shawwal 1447. This is the Arabic calendar, by the way, which corresponds to March 27th, 2020. 26, and this was issued by the Yemeni armed forces. Very interesting dynamics as far as the wording of what, and that was, remember, prior to launching the first missile on the 28th, which I will show you a clip of that. But the statements in itself indicated that there is no point of return now, and the Yemenis are moving forward. Of course, the government in Sana'a, which is a puppet, was sort of placed by the Saudis and the Americans, saying, "Oh, the Yemen is not getting involved against Israel or whatever." And the truth is not. They are. Yemen is fully sort of engaged right now into all this. Now, let's do the second clip, and I will do the analysis. Then I'll share with you some clips towards the end, like I always do. So please make sure to stay with me till the end of this live stream. So here is the, and this follows up the exactly the statement that was issued by Yahya Saree, and it highlights to you the idea that Iran sort of gets involved now and already firing missiles at Israel. So let's take a listen here, please. And it's very short anyway.
عقب الضربة التي شنها ذراع إيران في اليمن على إسرائيل، والذي يمثل أول عمل عسكري للجماعة منذ نشوب الحرب بنهاية الشهر الماضي، باتت احتمالات تحول المنطقة إلى حرب إقليمية واسعة أكثر وضوحا، وسط مخاوف من تأثيرات طويلة الأمد على دول المنطقة والعالم.
Following the strike launched against Israel by Iran's proxy in Yemen, marking the groups, this is reference to Ansarullah Houthis, first military action since the outbreak of the war late last month, the likelihood of the region spiraling into widespread regional conflict has become increasingly evident amidst fear of long-term repercussions for both regional and global nations.
الجيش الإسرائيلي أكد اعتراض صاروخ أطلق من اليمن باتجاه جنوب إسرائيل دون تسجيل أي إصابات، حيث يأتي هذا الإطلاق بعد ساعات من إعلان الجماعة استعدادهم للتحرك عسكريا إذا ما استمر التصعيد ضد طهران وأذرعها في المنطقة.
The Israeli military confirmed the interception of a missile fired from Yemen towards southern Israel, resulting in no casualties. This launch occurred just hours after the group announced its readiness to take military action should escalation persist against Tehran and its proxies in the region.
الجماعة المدعومة إيرانيا لم تحدد الشكل الذي سيتخذه أي تدخل لها، لكنها أكدت وضع يدها على الزناد للتدخل العسكري المباشر في حال انضمام أي تحالفات أخرى مع أمريكا وإسرائيل، واستمرار التصعيد ضد إيران أو استخدام البحر الأحمر لتنفيذ عمليات عسكرية ضد إيران.
The Iranian-backed group did not specify the exact form of any intervention on its part will take. However, it emphasized that its finger remains on the trigger for direct military intervention should any other alliances join forces with the US and Israel, should escalation against Iran continue, or should the Red Sea be utilized to conduct military operations against Iran.
دخول الجماعة اليمنية إلى الحرب رفع من احتمالات حدوث مواجهة إقليمية أوسع نطاقا، لا سيما بالنظر إلى امتلاكهم خيارات ضرب أهداف بعيدة عن اليمن وتعطيل ممرات الملاحة البحرية حول شبه الجزيرة العربية والبحر الأحمر بحسب مختصين استراتيجيين، وهي سياسة دأبت عليها الجماعة منذ عام 2023.
The entry of the Yemeni group into the conflict has heightened the probability of a broader regional confrontation, particularly given their capability to strike targets far beyond Yemen's borders and to disrupt maritime navigation lanes around the Arabian Peninsula and the Red Sea, according to strategic analysts. This strategy is one of the groups has consistently pursued since 2023.
وفي إطار استمرار التصعيد العسكري، وجه الحرس الثوري الإيراني إنذارا للشركات الصناعية الأمريكية والصناعات الثقيلة المتحالفة مع إسرائيل في منطقة بضرورة إخلاء هذه المنشآت والمناطق المحيطة بها، كونها أصبحت هدفا لإيران بعد الضربات التي استهدفت منشآت صناعية إيرانية حيوية.
Amidst this ongoing military escalation, Iran's IRGC issued a warning to American industrial firms and heavy industries allied with Israel within the region, demanding the evacuation of these facilities and their surrounding areas, as they have now become legitimate targets for Iran in retaliation for strikes targeting vital Iranian industrial installations.
ويشير خبراء إلى أن الأوضاع تتجه نحو تصعيد غير مسبوق في ظل توجه طهران نحو ضرب المراكز العسكرية الاستراتيجية في إسرائيل بهدف نقل الحرب إلى مستوى أكثر خطورة، بعد تأكيد الحرس الثوري أن إيران لم تعد ملتزمة بالرد بالمثل، بل إنها مستعدة لاستهداف أي هدف تعتبره استراتيجيا.
Experts suggest that the situation is trending towards an unprecedented escalation as Tehran appears poised to strike strategic military centers within Israel with the aim of elevating the conflict to a more dangerous level, a shift underscored by the IRGC declaration that Iran is no longer bound to respond merely in kind, but is instead prepared to strike any target it deems strategic. I'm going to stop right there because it's the end of the clip. What's interesting about this clip here is that the idea that you all know that it was an eye for an eye, as it is known in most of the Muslim countries. Iran was sort of moving into that direction. And that's what they told the sort of threatened the Israelis. If the Israelis attack the electric grid in Iran will respond by doing the same. And there was some sort of an eye for an eye. You target this, we'll target that. As a matter of fact, now the U.S., this is what I don't quite get it. Why the U.S. now wants to target the universities in Iran, or Israel for that matter, doing that the same. So what Iran said, if you target our universities, we'll target yours. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a clip following the Iran's strike on a nuclear facility where there is some chemical work or factories and what have you. Iran responded by the same, and I'm going to share the clip with you. This now highlights the strategic move as to why, which I will get into in a second, why Ansarullah or Houthis have entered the war at this stage. This is not a random, by the way. It's well thought out. It's calculated. Iran has put this in place for the last 40 years. That's what I'm saying. This is nothing. Iran is no. They planned on this accordingly, and that's what we are seeing the response of this. So what I'm going to show you, the clip here is first of this is a plant in Haifa that was blown up by the Iranians. And I want you to take a look here, and I'll show you the clip in a second. Let me just upload it quickly here. All right, let's take I don't know if there is a sound on it or not, but we'll see. Here's the clip here. And let's take a look. Take a listen, I'm sorry. If you noticed, the clip was from within Israel. And that's, once again, this clip pertains to what took place when Iran blew up the Haifa power plant with a ballistic missile. And this is, again, why this has moved now to different aspects of it. I'm going to share another clip with you. And this one is from Hezbollah. To those who said, oh, Hezbollah is dead and sort of it's whatever. No. Wait until you see what Hezbollah has done two major things. First of all, with the hold on, bear with me here, guys, please. Let me just get it for you, and you'll see two. And I'm gonna keep it in Arabic for you to see, because I want you to see this one here. Once again, I want you to see. Hold on, let me upload the screen here. So I'm going to show you, first of all, I'm going to show you the date of this particular clip. And I'm going to highlight it here. March 30th, which is today. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it on the screen. It's too small. It's right there where I screen that one there. It's in Arabic. And what I show you is the confirmation of the same clip that I just showed you from a different source. The one you saw earlier was from within Israel. This one is reported by Al Jazeera. And you can see also the Hebrew language here, because it was reported there. Okay. That was the first one I wanted to share with you. Second one is this particular clip right here. Let me upload it. And about Hezbollah. Why is this important? It's because it's a major development, which I didn't see it coming, I'll admit it. And this one has to do with the idea that Hezbollah now takes the town of Khiryat Shimona in Israel. This is Hezbollah fighter standing there. This is the first time in its history that Israel loses an enclave in its territory. Because why? The IDF has retreated after losing its main base. And what does it say? What does it tells us? It tells us that Hezbollah is not has been destroyed and so forth. It's still active, as we see here. All right, now let us go into the idea of, and there is also something going on with these two events, is that now you have a declining support inside Israel to the government. And of course, you have youth anxiety inside Israel. That's why people are leaving. Israelis are leaving in drove. I don't think so they're going to go back. Israel will never be the same again. And I'm going to ask you, the question is, what does this mean for the survival of Israel? Because what we are witnessing right now is that Iran war is beginning to sort of wear down Israel. That is the reality. The problem for the U.S. is being sucked into this, and with now the Houthis are start launching and moving forward. The government in Sana'a, that is a puppet to Saudis and Americans, it doesn't matter. But the Houthis have the capabilities now to move forward into sort of supporting Iran. And you're going to be seeing soon certain types of missiles that's going to be launched from Yemen in conjunction and coordination with Hezbollah and Iran at the same time. So basically the whole region now, but mainly for the Israel, is going to be attacked from 3 fronts. Then we're going to have to add the other front, which is in Iraq. This is what's important to understand about these dynamics. So now we ask the question, what does it mean? So now that Houthis have entered the war. Well, first of all, you're going to look at, I'm going to do it in 3 or 4 key points just to provide you some insights. Now, the 4th front has opened, and the 4th front is the Houthis, because the Iraq front was already open, which, by the way, today, a missile has attacked the American base in Baghdad, and 1 plane was destroyed. And that's in that location. That's where also the diplomatic corps of the U.S. in that base. So it's being attacked as we speak by Iraqi militia affiliated with Iran. That's the 1 front. The 2nd front in the Hezbollah. 3rd front, of course, is Iran. That's the main one. And now you have the 4th, which is the Houthi. And this is where Iran now reportedly signal the Houthis to hold until the moment of maximum impact. This is why you are seeing what you're seeing, why the Houthis have entered the war now, but not 3 weeks ago. It's not they didn't want to. It's not they were scared. No. Because what happened on Saturday with the strike of the Houthis, which was on the 28th, 29th for us the next day, suggests that the moment has arrived with the now so-called axis of resistance now operating on four fronts: Iran, Hezbollah, Iraq, and Yemen. And this is not an impulsive act. This is what I want you to get. This is a coordinated strategic escalation timed after a month of war. Second, as I mentioned earlier, Bab al-Mandab, I did an article on Substack, and I will put the link for you later on. And I addressed this particular point. The shutdown of Bab al-Mandab is a foregone conclusion. Why? Because it's the second maritime choke point. Let me put the Bab al-Mandab. I'm sorry. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Bab al-Mandab is. I'm trying to get to it, to the map here. If I can get to it, right now, it won't show up here. I thought I had the Strait of Hormuz. No, I don't. Sorry. The only way I can get this for you is through, right here, through this map. This is Bab al-Mandab. Right there, it says right there, Bab al-Mandab. And that is the idea of, it's a foregone conclusion. Bab al-Mandab now, it's going to be shut down, another choke point. And this arguably, in my opinion, the most consequential elements of Ansarullah's entry into the war. Iran has already effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz. And when I say closed the Strait of Hormuz, not to everybody. They were allowing some ships to go. They have nothing to do with Iran. They are not fighting against Iran. But anything affiliated with the US and Israel, or any supporters of Qatar, Bahrain, Amman, not Amman, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, no, they're not going to be passing by. And that's now Bab al-Mandab. As I said, in addition to Strait of Hormuz, now you have the Ansarullah now vowing and signaling they could move against Bab al-Mandab Strait. Give or take, because remember, they are about 10% of the world seaborne oil passes through there. And if they, meaning Ansarullah, decided to move to shut it down, you're talking about shutting down the Bab al-Mandab, shutting down the Red Sea, and ultimately the Suez Canal. Then we have two major choke points closed along the Strait of Hormuz. And those are major international shipping waterways for international trade, as you know. About just some stats for you to be aware of. About 12% of the world trade typically passes through Bab al-Mandab, and about 10% of global maritime trade, including 40% of container ship traffic, passes through the Suez Canal each year. So do the math, and you see what this is going to do to the energy markets. And third element I will talk about is the Israeli economic vulnerability. Now it's becoming clear. Ansarullah is launching missiles. Iran is targeting refineries and so forth, and there is no energy flowing into Israel, because where is it going to come from? There's no other way. Now, United Arab Emirates might do something. How are they going to do it? Turkey might allow some. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But suffice it to say that for Israel's economic vulnerabilities, a potential naval blockade on Israeli-linked ships passing through Bab al-Mandab Strait would hurt Israeli economy more than what it is already. It's devastating. Because you're talking about 30%, to my knowledge, of Israel's import passes through the waterways in the Red Sea. I mean, just think about this one, how it's going. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to share a clip with you. It's in English, and let me share the screen, and I want you to just take a listen. And what I want you to listen on this, it has to do with why you are not hearing certain coverage or certain areas that it's taking place as we speak. And this is what I try to do constantly by bringing you up-to-date information to keep you in the loop of this. Let's take a listen, please.
Iranian missiles are hitting Israel. So why are we seeing so little of it? Leading news agencies, including Reuters, say Israel's military has banned live broadcasts of the skyline during missile alerts. Images of interceptions, widely shown at the very beginning of the war, are now restricted. Journalists are also barred from filming impact sites near sensitive locations. These restrictions are enforced by Israel's military censor, a system that appears to have tightened since the war on Iran began. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has warned media organizations against violations, promising zero tolerance. And that warning carries significant weight because Israel faces scrutiny for killing almost 300 journalists in Gaza since October 2023. Reported strikes on media facilities during the current conflict raise further questions about the risks Israel poses to journalists reporting the war. Major news networks have acknowledged limits on what they can report.
We just saw one go up there. We're not showing you that because we're not going to show, the Israeli government does not allow us or want us to show where that may have come up, that interceptor.
Now, wartime censorship in Israel is not new. During the 12-day war with Iran in June 2025, journalists had to submit footage of missile strikes for approval, although some said they could still report when civilian areas were hit.
According to these rules, we are only allowed to film and report if civilian targets were hit, residential buildings, for example.
But in 2026, some members of the public say even that distinction is becoming muddied. Israeli academic Ori Goldberg highlighted one recent barrage initially described as hitting open areas with no damage. Minutes later, images showed a strike in the middle of the city of Givatayim near Tel Aviv. We decide what's real here in the asylum, he wrote. And one senior news manager told Plus 972 magazine that journalists sometimes only discovered later that a target had been struck after being unable to report it at the time. So if professional journalists are left trying to fill in the gaps, what does that mean for how the wider Israeli public understands the war? A recent Israel Democracy Institute poll found overwhelming support for the strikes among Jewish Israelis. So if support is already so high, why tighten control over what people see? Israel says the restrictions are designed to prevent sensitive information reaching Iran and Hezbollah, but they also limit what can be independently reported about the war and who controls what we know about it.
Okay, I just want you to be aware, and this is again why I do what I do and spend literally countless hours going through information from different parts of the world so I can do this live stream for you to bring you accurate information with credible sources and let you reach your own conclusions. If the truth matters to you, hit like, subscribe, and tap that bell. No spin, no agenda, just the stories they don't want you to know. So don't watch from the sideline. Be part of the movement. Your support keeps the truth alive. Thank you very much. And indeed, I am very grateful to your support and to our community for that. Let's continue with my brief analysis. The point number 4 that I need to share with you is that what's going on now with Ansarullah entering the fight is that a warning to Gulf states, especially Saudi Arabia. And once again, I wrote a book about the Saudis, and I disclosed in it why the fear of the Saudis from the Ansarullah or Houthis, because they are in, and I'm not going to get into the detail of geography and so forth. When you look at this part of Saudi Arabia, southwestern part, right there, in area of Abha and Jizan. Now, all of this is mainly Shiite. And where are the Houthis? Houthis are in the north of Yemen, in Sa'da. And that was always the fear of the Saudis. This area is also rich in oil. And you can just see why the concern for the warning to the Gulf states. Like I said before, and I don't shy away from saying this once again, it's the Gulf states that put themselves into this position by allowing U.S. bases on their territories. And those missiles that are hitting Iran are being launched from those locations. And that is exactly what's going on. So you don't blame Iran for attacking those locations, because that's what it is. So to the Yemenis, they are thinking in terms to specifically for Saudi Arabia. Here is what most analysts concur or agree upon, is that the attacks may have been less about Israel than about Riyadh or Saudi Arabia, because Saudis play both sides. Which, I mean, you can track and you trust the Saudi government. I won't, just using a religion to justify whatever. And that's a separate conversation for some other day. And here is the thing. This is why I shared the clip with you earlier about Yahya Saree when he stated those 4 points. because he laid out the specific conditions that would trigger full entry into the war. Houthis have not entered the war completely yet. And among them are any country actively participating in the US-Israel war against Iran. And this, I believe, is in my opinion, it's an indirect message to the Gulf and particularly Saudi Arabia, warning them against joining the war against Iran and letting the US forces use more of their bases. And that's exactly what I argued before. And the other thing is, the other point is the complications that now the Houthis have created for the US military power projection. The Houthis' involvement will complicate some sort of the development of the US as Gerald 4 aircraft carrier, which, by the way, left the area. Let me get, I'm hearing some noises outside there. Sorry, guys. Sending it for the Red Sea for the to be fixed. Well, because it has been attacked. That is where the issue is. Yeah. And point number 6 that I want to address here, it has to do with Iran's broader strategic design. This is, again, while the Houthis' strike against Israel should not be dismissed, from Iran's perspective, it is a part of a broader economic campaign against the United States. The central issue lies, and of course Israel for that matter, but the central issue lies in their demonstrated ability to threaten critical energy transit routes at both maritime checkpoints, or choke points rather. That is what's important to understand, because what you're looking at right now with each passing day, okay, of the conflict, I mean, remember, the late Ali Khamenei warned the American that it will become a regional war. So he was spot on, because it was a foregone conclusion, but sort of his son, Mujtaba Khamenei, doesn't think in those terms. He will move forward with, which what he's doing, that's what Iran is doing right now. Because Iran now, that's it, gloves off. There is no holding back. Just for those who might be thinking, well, Iran might negotiate, Iran might cave in, no. That ain't gonna happen. Iran made the decision now, we'll fight till the end. And they have the strategy, they have the resources, to my knowledge, to sustain this war for about 2 years. Remember, we've been in Afghanistan for 18 to 20 years. And what have we accomplished? Nothing. And that is, again, where I see this scenario now is going to materialize and continue to grow. It's not a question of if, but rather a question of when. Simple as that. So the bottom line that I need you to understand about this, and I'm going to answer some other key points in this brief analysis, is that the Ansarullah's entry into the conflict signals that Iran's grand strategy is to turn a bilateral confrontation into a multi-front war of attrition. Remember, Hezbollah took over now a location in southern part of Israel. And that in itself will signal not only from that operational aspects of it, but also from the global economy, and mainly global energy. Because what Iran and Ansarullah enter in the war now is they're going to strangle the global energy and trade flows at a multiple choke point simultaneously. And this is, again, where that immediate military threat to Israel is going to become a foregone conclusion. We'll be looking, what you're going to be looking at, and I'm going to be doing updates for you. We're going to be seeing now certain types of missiles being launched from Yemen into Israel. Something we didn't see before in 2023. Even though Yemen or Ansarullah do have in their possession certain long-range missiles provided by Iran. And this is, again, where you're going to have to think in terms the immediate military threat to Israel. You know, some analysts saying, oh, it's modest. I disagree. I disagree with that assessment. It's not modest. But what you're going to also be looking is that the economic and logistical threat to global shipping, U.S. force deployment, since now we are sending Marines to their death and for a land invasion, which we all know how it's going to end for that. Then also you add the Gulf stability, which is it's now severe and growing concern within so many of those rulers in the Gulf. So basically what the world is watching now is watching whether Bab al-Mandab joined the Strait of Hormuz. I am here to say it will in due time. There is a reason for why the Houthis didn't do it yesterday. They're not going to do it tomorrow. But there is a point where they're going to do it. And that's when you're going to control, because the outcome will send shockwaves throughout the global energy market. That is the idea. And this leads me to one question which I'm going to ask you, and I will greatly appreciate your input into this. Just yes or no in the chat box. Can Israel, in your opinion, afford to defend multiple fronts? And let me repeat the question once again. In your opinion, can Israel afford to defend multiple fronts? Just yes or no in the chat box. I will greatly appreciate it. My answer is no. And no, and not alone, by the way, because you have to have the U.S. support. Israel's survival without America, it won't exist. It is the truth. And this is, again, where you will think some countries like Japan, like South Korea, like Philippines, even Australia, they'll start to have to think, should the war breaks out in that part of the world, the U.S. ain't going to be fighting for them. As a matter of fact, I've been reading some, I won't call them internal because I don't have access to the government, but limited circulated documents in Washington. The bottom line to it, let's just not get into the sources and all that. The bottom line to it is that Netanyahu is now so concerned that he is finding himself, am I going to be by myself? Will the U.S. drop me? Because there is some regression from Donald Trump, despite what you hear. Donald Trump is coming to the realization that he's been played, but I also wanted to start to reduce the footprint of the U.S. support. And this is where you start to see now, for example, for Israel, its air defense system is being stretched to its limits. Yeah. Because in the first 3 days of this war, Iran launched more than 200 ballistic missiles at Israel. And let me just put this in context for you. You remember the 12-day war in 2025? Iran launched around 500 total, and each requiring that Israel counter it with an interceptor rocket, probably more than Israel has the capacity to counter on its own. That's what I'm saying. Without the U.S. help, it would likely have lost control of its airspace by now. Because Israel has the 3 defense systems, the Iron Dome for short-range rockets, David Sling for medium range, and Arrow 2 and 3 for ballistic missiles. But none of them seems to be working. Because when Iran blew up the Haifa location there, that means and that was a missile, that was a ballistic missile. That means Israel defense system, that's it. Iran found out now it can just launch whatever it wants. And the casualty and the damage toll is mounting. Of course, we are not going to be hearing much. To my knowledge, there are about up to almost 5,000 people have been wounded in Israel since the start of the war on February 28th. But again, you check and double check to ensure the information. And we're talking about, I'm not even including yet the attacks on Daymona and Arad, which was about, to my knowledge, about 200 people. And that's what prompted the evacuation, raising serious questions about Israel's defense strategy. And this is now where you're going to start to see the other front, Lebanon, has become now a second active ground front. And this is why Israeli troops entered Khiyam and clashed with Hezbollah near Tyre, as Israel pushed to create security zone, but they couldn't. Hezbollah has attacked Israeli tanks and fired out of warplanes over Beirut. And this is where you are seeing now the massive demoralized mindset inside Israel that is going on. It's because years of cumulative war have now eroded reserves inside Israel. So I won't be surprised that you might see American troops now fighting on behalf of Israel, which will be very problematic. Very problematic. I'm talking from a constitutional perspective here. So are you Americans or are you Jewish? You know, you can't fight for two countries. You fight for one. Yeah, you might have a dual citizen, but that's fine. But at the same time, you're going to have to make a decision on that. Suffice it to say that more than 2 years now, almost constant war has taken now a heavy toll on Israeli economy. This is why economy and the military. This is why you have the head of the military, Izamir, I believe. He's saying that the Israeli military is in the verge of collapse. Because when you get demoralized, no matter how much weapons you have, whatever, you're demoralized. You can't do anything. So the cost, you look at just, for example, the cost of the munition has weighed heavily on the Israeli budget. And this is why you have to think in terms of the Iran strategy. Iran is taking the punishment too. I'm not denying it, because we just had a bomber flew in 2 nights ago, nighttime, and dropped massive ordnance inside Iran. I don't know whether Iran has some capabilities to counter that or not. I don't know. But so far, we were able to do that. So, and that's again, but even with that, Iran is thinking long term, because Iran is pacing itself for a long war. And so far, it has the upper hand. Because what Iran wanted to do is it wanted to ensure that it has enough. Of course, the Western media is going to tell you by Iran dropping the amount of missiles and rocket launching, this was a result of the U.S. and Israeli effective suppression of Iranian launchers. That is not true. That is not true. The reason Iran dropped the number of missiles is thinking in a long term. They don't want to run out of all their stockpile. So that's not because of the U.S. suppression. Otherwise, how come the ballistic missile yesterday blew up the location in Haifa, which I will show you the clip in a second here. So, and another point, which takes me back to what I said at the beginning, Israel and the U.S. underestimated Iran. You have now Israeli defense analysts themselves describing Iran's missile as the Middle East's largest and most varied, meaning they have different types. And just remember that picture, I decide to keep it for you here, to always refer to it. That the types of missiles Iran has. Because this variety of missiles have been developed over decades. And that's what gives Tehran, it gives Tehran strategic reach, despite the lack of modern equivalency to the US Air Force and so forth. And also the usage of Iran's cluster munition in its attack on Israel, that just added more casualties inside inside Israel. The reason some have questioned why the late Ali Khamenei decided to cap the Iranian missiles ranges to 2,200. But at the same time, that limit has been removed following the 12-day war. A lot of people do not know. It was removed. No more. That means now Iran is going to extend the range, meaning that Iran now has the theoretically unrestricted reach with its longer range missile systems. I wouldn't be surprised North Korea might end up helping Iran for ICBMs. I won't be surprised at that. Just a matter of time. So, and this is where the US is in critical position right now. Because the blunt reality that I see is that Israel cannot sustain this war alone. It's a foregone conclusion. So what does it mean? It means that the US will have now to allocate funding, to allocate resources, manpower, and our troops. Because all started from striking Ali Khamenei, the late Ali Khamenei, thinking, oh, we're going to just do a quick regime change. So now moving into a large-scale operation across at least 26 of Iran's 31 provinces, but also entire region of the Gulf. So the bottom line, and I'm going to conclude with this and share a clip with you. The bottom line regarding this point that I was talking about, the entrance of the war, is that now Israel is fighting at least 4 simultaneous fronts. So Iran directly, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis or Ansarullah missiles coming from Yemen, and you have the Iran-backed militia inside Iraq. At the same time, Israel also dealing with managing severe economic strain and interceptor depletion at home. It cannot hold on for much longer. But also because the reason why Israel is still standing as of now is because the U.S. deep military integration into it. And the longer, by the way, the longer the war runs, the more Israeli capacity degrades. And the more Iran's strategy of a multi-front attrition pays dividends, strategically speaking, which is precisely what Iran designed it this way. This wasn't planned on or planned about last month, or this was in the making for the last 3.5 decades. So here is my overall conclusion. What began as a confrontation, because that's what we had at the beginning with Iran and Israel, was begun with Iran launching this kind of missiles and so forth. It's now rapidly evolved into something far larger, and if I may use the term, more consequential for every person on the planet, including you, all of us, because Ansarullah's entry into the war is not a side story. Let me just make that clear. It is truly the activation of a strategy decades in the making. As I said, design. What was the purpose of it? Is to overwhelm, exhaust, and isolate both Israel and the United States across multiple fronts simultaneously. I mean, come on, guys, let's be realistic. If you are a Bahraini, if you are a Kuwaiti, if you are a Saudi or an Emirati or Omani or what have you, won't you be asking yourself why the leadership is supporting Israel or allowing American bases on our territory? That's the common, simple question an average person is asking as we speak. And that is why I'm saying this is not a distant war. No. We are dealing with it as we speak. And mark my word on it. When Bab al-Mandab and the Strait of Hormuz are both shut down, the price of everything you buy, every gallon of gas you pump, and every product that crosses an ocean is directly at risk. Because one thing we fail to understand, and you know what, is that Iran has patience. Just go and read the history of the Persian Gulf. That's all I need to say to you for that. 40 years, which 40 years falls into when we impose sanctions following the Islamic Revolution stated by or initiated by Ayatollah Khomeini back then. Almost 40 years. But also at the same time, 40 years of Iran building missiles, developing groups, as we call them in the West, proxies. And of course, working on a strategy for choke point strategies. All this is not accidental. It is not. It is not. Because what I see coming is the next 30 days. We already went through the first 30 days. Now we're going to be seeing the next 30 days. And this war ain't over unless the US can sit down and agree to Iran's term, which I don't see that happening at this time. Once we start seeing body bags coming, that would be a different conversation. So the next 30 days will likely determine the trajectory of these conflicts moving forward, not for the next month or second month or third month. We're talking about years from now, years to come. So my advice to you is watch the Red Sea, watch Israeli defenses, watch whether the Gulf states hold their neutrality, because these are what I call the pressure points that will tell you exactly where this conflict is headed before you start reading on headlines, which, by the way, are manipulative anyway. And that's why I truly appreciate you being here, because you are being informed. And I thank you for your support. Let me share the clip with you that I promised earlier. And I want you to see with your own eyes here. And I'll conclude with these clips here. So the image that I'm going to show you, it's an aerial drone footage. And I'll let you decide what are you looking at here. All right. Let me make this bigger if I could. Yes. And here we go. I'm not going to play the sound. Do you know what you're looking at? Yeah, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. All right, I'm going to stop it right there because that's almost the end. What you were looking at, that's Tel Aviv. It's a footage from an aerial drone in Tel Aviv. What I'm going to be working on for the next story is the one about the shutdown of the planes, the U.S. plane, but it's not about that specifically. It's about the military losses against Iran. That is what I'm going to be covering for you soon. So I'll be doing that one soon. I thank you very much for sticking out with me here till the end. So truly appreciate you. Let me say a quick thank you to some avid supporters here. Let me start first with JV. Thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member, and make sure to join me on April 3rd for the live Q&A for the members. I'm going to be doing that. So Empire, thank you so much for your super sticker and your generosity. Truly appreciate you for that. Don't be fooled by Israeli and American nuke propaganda. The Israeli program is the American program. Why did I build Israeli aircraft to deploy American nuclear weapons? B-61 series, we gave the IDF everything we had. That is true. And unfortunately, I can't talk about certain highly sensitive stuff because I'll be breaking the law, and I will not do that. But you're absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more with you. Thank you so much for your super sticker and generosity. So, Naz M, appreciate you again. You too for your super sticker and your generosity. Thanks for all your hard work. You are most welcome. Truly, to all of you, to all the community. I read the comments, and when you're right, thank you very much for your hard work, Dr. O. It means a lot to me as well. I want you to know that. A kind word can go along. And believe it or not, it's your support, your kind words is truly what keeps me going. And I mean it when I say, by now, I don't sugarcoat things. So thank you very much, Naz. Truly appreciate you. And the last person I'm going to give a shout out to, it's Real Pill Science. Appreciate you, and thank you so much for your super sticker. Peace, brother love. What do? You are most welcome. I take this opportunity to also give a shout out to Noel. For last time, he put a super sticker. I didn't get a chance to read it. I overlooked it. So I wanted to just say thank you to Noel for the super sticker. Truly appreciate you. Another one is Martel. Any word on the new Ayatollah? What is it about? To my knowledge, he is in Moscow. So, but usually it's in serious conditions. I think he survived the bombing or whatever, that missile. And that's so far what I know. As to his conditions, whether he can talk or not, I do not know. I do not know. I'll check. I'll check and get back on this aspect here. Thank you so much for your super sticker, Martel. Truly appreciate you. And oh, you have 2 super stickers here, Martel. Let me show here. Oh, why did Israel invade Lebanon now? Are they crazy? Because they know the reason they invaded. They wanted to invade. They didn't invade it. They just attack from the air because the Lebanese military is weak. Remember, in Lebanon, you have 2. You have Hezbollah, which has its own military, which is far stronger than the central government in Beirut. Beirut is useless. The government is useless there. And as a matter of fact, Beirut government in Beirut, it's get the funding from Saudi Arabia. That's why they're following. And that is why Israel is doing what it's doing in Beirut, but it won't be able to send ground troops in southern Lebanon. And that's why Hezbollah now is reacting to all this. So that is the reason why. So, Zamir, there's another super sticker here. Zamir, thank you so much, man. Truly appreciate you. No to war profiteers. I couldn't agree more, because that is why the war is going to drag on, because there are those who wants to make money. The sad reality is the sad reality. War makes money. Peace doesn't make money. That's the sad part. But at the same time, for us as humans, when we will say, how about if we all live in peace? Live and let live. Yeah, you can go and build your capabilities, whatever, but you don't have the right to dictate to other countries what capabilities they have or they should have or not have. Because that was the whole argument. Okay, what gives us the right to dictate to Iran not to have a nuclear weapon? If we have them, why shouldn't they? And if they have the capabilities and capacities to do it, then no. But at the same time, it proved that if you have the nukes, nobody's going to mess around with you. Once again, I give always the example of North Korea. Are we messing around with North Korea? No, we can't. So thank you so much, Zamir. You got another super sticker here. You got 2. Truly appreciate you, Zamir. Truly appreciate your generosity here. And I have Jesus Aguilar, an avid supporter. I remember Jesus from way back. Good to see you here, and thank you for your super sticker. Will the Gulf state invest in pipeline for gas and oil to send west in order to bypass the Strait of Hormuz if this war ever ends? Even if they invest, no, it won't work, because logistically speaking, the cost of it, and what guarantees do they have that this missile will not land on those pipelines? As a matter of fact, what I'm concerned now about is the idea that Israel might go and bomb or launch a missile on some energy facility inside Qatar or United Arab Emirates and blame it on Iran. That is, it's nothing new. We've seen it back in 1968 with USS Liberty, when the aircraft carrier was attacked and blamed it was Israel that did it. So, and that is, again, I won't be surprised. But yes, they could consider doing the pipelines, but the Middle East will never, or West Asia is not going to be the same anymore. And by the way, Israel and U.S. dominance in the region will cease to exist. I'm here to tell you. So, Marvin, I gotta say thank you to Marvin also. Marvin, thank you. Vargas, thank you very much for your super sticker, Marvin. Volt Negev Desert war complex collapse 3500 IDF trap. You got a major point there, and the major point I want to make comment on is that when Iran sent that ballistic missile to Arad, which is only 20 kilometers from the Daimuna nuclear facility, that was the subtle message from Iran. We are capable of blowing this up if we want to. And that should make us think twice about think twice in terms of why the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has no teeth. It's like the UN, United Nations. They have no teeth whatsoever. And this is one of the things I'm going to be talking about during that members only live Q&A, because I will tackle all these aspects of the Middle East. And so to the members who planning on attending that live Q&A, please prepare your questions ahead of time and just bring them over, or you can email them to me, or put them in a comment for me, whatever. And that's what I'm going to be addressing, because I want you to have a clear understanding of all this. Once again, I want to say thank you to all those who got me here, the super sticker. Your generosity means a lot, and I'm very grateful and appreciative of it all. So, and to all of you, here is the link should you decide to support the channel by buying me coffee. If you want to do this, I will be very, very grateful to you for that. And I'll be working on the next story for you as we move forward. Now, here is that one right there. This is the one. And for those who want to support my upcoming Asia trip, here is the link for it here. And thank you for your support. I think once again, I want to give a shout out to Sir R88. Thanks for buying me cups of teas in support of my upcoming trip to Asia. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Morshid for becoming a new member on the channel. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, bye-bye.